The jury in the Lori Vallow murder trial was hearing this week that jailhouse phone call. It's between Lori and her current husband, Chad Daybell, the same day police were searching that property, as you heard there, June 9th of 2020, and found Lori's two children's bodies. A detective also testifying this week that there was no evidence that 7-year-old JJ and 16-year-old Tylee Ryan were alive after September of 2019. That's despite what Lori Vallow told police. Testimony is resuming this morning. One of the lead prosecutors had a death in the family, so court ended abruptly on Wednesday. But there is a lot that has already happened in this case. I want to bring in Brian Claypool to talk more about what we know at this point. He's a trial attorney and also a legal analyst and author of the Break the Code of Silence, Raising My Voice to Protect Our Kids. Brian, thank you. I want to start with this phone call, and I think it's pretty critical to point out again in the timeline that this phone call happened in June of 2020, the day detectives went on the property and found the two kids' bodies in a shallow grave. It is almost a year after they were last seen in September of 2019. As we listen to Lori and Chad talk, what stands out to you?
Hey, Marnie, great to be back with you. I think the comment by Chad Daybell saying, let's see what transpires. I mean, I think that's incredibly damning for his defense and also for Lori Vallow's defense. If he was innocent and she was innocent, they would have said, oh, the police are over there searching. They're not going to find anything. What are the police doing there? I mean, both of these individuals sounded like they were worried on that phone call. But man, that comment, we'll see what transpires, that certainly indicates a consciousness of guilt.
And will the jury try to interpret how he sounds, right? He's the one on the property. She's behind bars at that point, so it's a jailhouse phone call, that he appears kind of nervous in what he's saying, tepid in his response, kind of quiet almost.
Absolutely. I mean, these two are partners in crime. I mean, they were getting married after the kids, went missing. They're frolicking in Hawaii. She's not showing up at court for a hearing on where the kids are. So it's going to be hard for the jury to separate his demeanor and his comment from hers. And I will tell you, Marnie, this case, the defense for Lori Vallow in this case, they should have argued a legal doctrine called diminished capacity. What does that mean? It means that she had a mental illness that would have negated her ability to have an intent to kill these kids and to kill Tammy Daybell, Chad Daybell's wife. And it would have reverted these charges down to probably an involuntary manslaughter, and she might have seen the day of light again. Remember, Marnie, she was initially declared in this case mentally incompetent by the judge, and then she spent 9 months in a mental hospital.
Right, but then she was deemed fit for trial, right? So they can't use that defense at this point. And I guess some would argue, anyone who takes someone else's life, no matter the manner or who it is, I mean, in this case, her own children, I mean, there's got to be a component of mental illness, but it also can't be an excuse.
Well, no, Mara, first of all, there's no insanity defense in Idaho. There's only 3 states that don't have it. There's no insanity defense in Idaho, and that's a complete bar. That's a complete defense in the case. So, but there is this doctrine of diminished capacity. So I respectfully disagree a little bit. Diminished capacity is where somebody does have a mental illness, and I would argue that the two of them talking about zombies, the two of them talking about what's called evil meters, the two of them saying that we need to kill people to have mercy on them so they can go to heaven, the doomsday discussions, all of that evidence, Marnie, indicates that she has a serious mental illness. And had her lawyers argued that, then they could have argued she can't then form the requisite intent to kill anybody.
There's a lot of different layers to this case, Brian. One is the murder charges for the kids, which is one component for the prosecution. The other is the conspiracy charges to kill Tammy Daybell, that's Chad Daybell's ex-wife. How will the jury be instructed to approach these different charges?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be told to look at each death separately, but as well as I do that the jurors don't always do what a judge tells them. And a judge can tell a juror how to interpret something or how to treat the facts in a case. But look, if you were a juror and I was a juror, how would you be able to separate all this? Because Tammy Daybell is also connected to the kids dying as well. There's evidence in the case already, for example, of Chad and Lori receiving Social Security benefits for the kids, and then Chad had increased the insurance policy amount on Tammy. Well, Lori Vallow benefits from that as well, right? So how is this jury going to separate all that? I don't think they will, and I think they're going to clump it all together, and it's going to end up in a guilty verdict.
Well, and the other thing, Brian, is Vallow's fourth husband, his name was Charles, was shot by Lori's brother, who is also dead. He had claimed self-defense. But her ex-husband, who is Charles, who is dead, also said in the divorce proceedings that he feared she would try to kill him. Is that admissible in the case?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would argue that would not be admissible in this case. I mean, that's what I would argue, that's inadmissible character evidence if I was defending Lori Vallow. That's going to be a tough call for the judge. The only way prosecutors can probably get that in is to show a pattern and practice that Lori Vallow engages in to murder people. But I think that's a tough call. If I was a judge, I would not allow that in. It's prejudicial, highly prejudicial to Lori Vallow. And look, at the end of the day, if I'm the prosecutor as well, I don't really want to have that come in as well. You've got enough evidence, and you don't want to create an appeal, Marnie. Go through all of this, get a guilty verdict, and then have an appeal based on that evidence.
All right, we're watching it every day. Brian Claypool, as always, thank you for your perspective and insight.